All right, if you're a developer, you know the pain. That constant switching back and forth between your terminal and your browser just to manage GitHub. Well, today, we're going to look at a tool that promises to end all that frustration. It brings the full power of GitHub right into your command line, all through your AI assistant. So let's just start with a workflow that I'm sure is way too familiar for a lot of you. I'm talking about that constant ping-pong match, that back and forth shuffle between your browser and your terminal.
It usually starts right here. You've got a great idea, or maybe a bug you need to squash. So what do? You hop over to your browser, you find the right GitHub repo, and you create a new issue.
Then it's back to the terminal, right? You check out a new branch, you fire up your editor, and you finally get to do the actual work, writing the code. This is where you want to be. But as soon as you commit your changes, where are you headed? You guessed it, right back to the browser to open up a pull request, assign it to people, and get the whole thing merged. It's a total flow killer. But what if you could just stop all that? What if you could eliminate that shuffle completely? Well, that's exactly the promise of the official GitHub MCP server. Now, MCP just stands for Model Context Protocol. Think of it as a powerful new way to let your AI tools talk directly to services like GitHub and, kill that ping-pong effect for good.
At its heart, this server is basically a super smart bridge. It lets your command line AI assistant, like Claude Code in the examples we're going to see, understand plain English commands and turn them into real actions right on GitHub.
And look, we're not talking about some random niche side project here. This is an official tool, maintained by the GitHub team itself, and the community trust is just massive. I mean, with over 28,000 stars on its repository, it is crystal clear that developers are getting some serious value out of this. So what does that actually mean for your day-to-day work? It means you can manage pretty much your entire development lifecycle without leaving your terminal. Seriously, think about it. Creating issues, opening PRs, analyzing code, even collaborating with your team, all of it, without ever having to touch your mouse.
Okay, so that's the theory. But what does this actually look like in the real world? Let's walk through a pretty common scenario. A developer who's writing a new article for their blog, which of course is all managed on GitHub. It all starts with a simple command, but in natural language. Instead of clicking through a bunch of menus in the GitHub UI, the developer just tells their AI assistant what to do. Create an issue, here's the repo, here's the title, and hey, while you're at it, add a label and a milestone. No browser required.
And here's what's happening under the hood. The MCP server hears that plain English request, figures out the right tool to use, in this case, issue write, and boom, the issue is created on GitHub. The best part? It tells you the new issue number right there in your terminal.
And the efficiency just keeps getting better. With just one more sentence, one single command, the developer tells the assistant to both create a new branch and open a pull request for it.
Now this is the really crucial part. The server is smart enough to chain these actions together. It knows it has to call create branch first, and only when that's done does it move on to create pull request. That's two distinct steps, all handled by one simple command. But hey, it's not just for creating new things. Imagine you're doing a big refactor. In this case, the developer had renamed a field in their templates and needed to hunt down every single file where the old field was still being used.
And this is where a tool like Search Code is just a lifesaver. Instead of a slow, manual search, the server just scours the entire repository for that exact string. In seconds, it finds every single file that needs to be updated. It saves a ton of time and prevents a lot of headaches. Okay, so you've seen what it can do. You're probably thinking, all right, I'm sold. How do I get this running? And you might think it's going to be complicated, but honestly, the setup is surprisingly simple.
It really just boils down to two commands. The first one uses npx to install the server and hook it into your AI client. The second one handles your authentication. You're just exporting your GitHub personal access token, which is basically just a secure key that proves who you are, and that gives the server the permission it needs to do its job. Now, speaking of that token, let's be really clear. Security is absolutely critical here. You have to follow best practices. That means giving it only the minimum permissions it needs, using different tokens for different tools, rotating them on a regular basis, and, this is the big one, never, ever commit a token to a repository.
All right, let's have an honest assessment. No tool is perfect, so we got to look at the potential downsides and figure out who this tool is really for.
Okay, so based on what people are saying, there are a few little annoyances. First, every command is a network call, so some of the more complex stuff can take, 5 to 20 seconds. Second, the AI can sometimes get a little overeager and maybe do a bit more than you asked. And finally,
And this is important. It can't handle GitHub Actions. For that, you'll still want the good old GH command line tool.
So who's the perfect fit? Well, if your day is a constant flood of issues, PRs, and code reviews across a bunch of different projects, this tool could literally be a game changer. But if your workflow is pretty simple, maybe you're working on one repo by yourself, then the standard GH CLI is probably all you need.
But for its target audience, the value is just undeniable. Get this, a staggering 92% of developers using MCP with Claude Code enable the GitHub server first, before anything else. That tells you that this context switching problem is one of the biggest pain points out there, and this tool nails the solution.
So at the end of the day, the GitHub MCC server really offers a fundamental shift in how you can interact with GitHub, building it right into your conversational AI workflow. The only question left is, are you ready to finally end that browser terminal ping-pong match for good?